Hello, and welcome to your first actual tactical sales strategy lecture. As you'll notice, we are going out of order in the syllabus. We aren't starting with chapter 1 and moving through chapter 14. We're actually starting with chapter 1, then we did chapter 4. Now we're going into chapter 10 because I think it's most important to understand the tactical aspect of selling before the strategic aspect of selling. And I'm going to get into what the difference between tactical and strategic is. And today's lecture is all about the approach. If you'll take a look, we have a 6-step tactical selling process that I want you guys to learn over the next weeks that we are together. And the first step in that tactical sales approach or tactical selling is really the approach. And the approach is probably the most important part of the tactical sales, even though the approach probably only takes 5 minutes or less. But the approach really is about breaking the ice, you feeling comfortable as a salesperson, and making the prospect feel comfortable as a salesperson. So we're going to get into that more in just a minute. But until then, let's talk about the tactical sales approach. So as I said in the introduction, chapter 10 is all about approaching the customers with adaptive selling. Adaptive selling is what we call our tactical sales strategy. There's 2 different parts of the sales process. One is strategic selling, the other is tactical selling. Strategic selling is all about prospecting, setting up the customer, understanding what the customer does, understanding the customer's industries, and that type of thing. And then tactical selling is what you do when you're face-to-face with the customer. In this particular class, we start with tactical selling because I think that's very important. Once you get comfortable with tactical selling, then oftentimes you can do the strategic selling at other various points. Remember, the life of a salesperson, most of the time you're spent in either the strategic part or understanding who to call on, why to call on them, what industries to call on, and those types of things, as well as travel. Really, the smallest portion of a salesperson's life is actually the tactical selling or the face-to-face selling within a customer. But I think that is truly the most important, and that's why we start with it in this particular course. So again, the strategic selling part is developing a personal selling strategy. We're going to talk about that later on in the semester. Developing a relationship strategy, a product strategy, and a customer strategy. All of those are strategic selling aspects that a salesperson needs to go before the tactical selling or the face-to-face selling. But again, because I think face-to-face selling is so important, we start with that. And that's your presentation strategy, and then obviously what you're going to do and how you're going to execute that strategy. So in figure 10.1 here, you can see all of the different prescriptions for those different steps. And again, later on in the semester, I'm going to get to the strategics part, but we always start in this particular class with what we would call the tactical part. Now, our tactical sales approach is a 6-step approach. You have the approach, which is what we're going to talk about in this particular chapter. You have your need discovery, which is truly one of the most important parts. Then presentation, negotiation, which is handling objections and looking over terms and other things of the sale, closing the sale, and then most importantly, or as important, servicing the sale so that you can get referrals and other things from your current customer base. So again, our 6-step process is the approach, needs discovery, presentation, negotiation, close, and servicing the sale. This entire chapter is only on the first step of that 6-step sales process, which is the approach. That's the whole focus of this chapter. The next chapter, chapter 11, is all about needs discovery. Chapter 12 is presentation. 13 is negotiation. 14 is closing and servicing the sale. So again, chapter 10 is all about the approach. Now, in the approach, the first thing you've got to do is plan your pre-approach. So when you walk in, you understand what you're going to say. The objective of the approach, let me state this very clearly. The objective of the approach is simply to break the ice, to make you feel comfortable, to make the prospect feel comfortable. Simply talking about things like the weather, or talking about things like the prospect's family, or what the prospect likes to do. Oftentimes you can get information on the prospect through their LinkedIn profile. If you look on the internet, because everybody's all over the internet these days, you can look at their LinkedIn profile or maybe even their Facebook page or something like that, and understand what their likes are, what their hobbies are, what sports teams they follow. You can see where they went to school. You can see some of their contacts, and maybe some of their contacts are the same contacts that you have. You can take a look at their career history, etc. All of those things are wonderful things for breaking the ice, putting the prospect at ease. You want to make sure that the prospect sees you as a normal person, a caring person, that you care not only about their business, but in winning the sale, but you care about their personal life and you care about what's important to those types of things, etc. So you want to make sure that you review your objections. How are you going to break that ice? And then how are you going to transition into that presentation plan? And how are you going to transition into your model selling, or the six-step selling approach? In chapter 4, we talked a lot about etiquette, or sales etiquette. And that comes into play with the approach also. So oftentimes we do a pre-approach worksheet to make sure that we have things. Now, we don't bring that worksheet out in front of the prospect, but if we have a pre-approach worksheet and we review that worksheet before we go into the prospect, we can review again what they like and things that might help break the ice. So again, the approach. There's a couple of things that you need to do the approach. First of all, you need to establish rapport. Find out about the prospect and establish that rapport. Oftentimes you can do it before the presentation on LinkedIn or one of those other sites out there, or you can actually do it while you're in the prospect's office. And you can take a look at, in the prospect office, maybe the pictures that they have on the wall, pictures of their family or something like that, and you can break the ice with that. Maybe they have some Bills memorabilia, or their favorite sports team, or their college memorabilia, or something like that in their office. Oftentimes, those are very good things to bring up to establish rapport and break the ice. The second thing that you want to do during the approach is to ask how much time we have, because the prospect's time is very important. You never, ever, ever want to be late to a sales call, and you never want to take more time than the prospect allows you. So once you establish rapport, you need the permission to ask questions, and then you need permission to find out how much time they have and move on from there. The third thing that we need to do in the approach, and all of these things are on the rubric that I'm going to show you as we do our sales one-to-one near the end of the semester, is to ask, are they part of the decision-making team? Oftentimes the prospect isn't the only decision maker, but they're part of the decision-making team. So you want to find out, are you part of the decision-making team, and who else is part of those decision-making teams? Because in long selling cycles, one person oftentimes doesn't make the decision. The decision is made by a variety or a multiple people, and oftentimes that first sales call you make, moving into the prospect's organization, you can establish not only is that person part of the sales process, but who else is part of the sales process and how that sales process goes. All of those things need to happen before you go into the needs approach, needs identification approach, and also involving the prospect in customer demonstrations and providing value through the customer. So again, let me reiterate and write this down. The first thing you want to do is break the ice and establish rapport. The second thing that you want to do with a new prospect is you want to ask, how much time do we have? I'll be looking for these things when we do our one-to-one sales role play. And then finally, establishing who is part of the buying team. Is this person part of the buying team? And who else is part of the buying team? All of those are part of the approach. Oftentimes, there's a team selling. And with team selling, you still have to establish rapport. There might be multiple people in the room on your side of the desk and multiple people in the room on the prospect side of the desk. We still need to establish rapport and make sure that we're putting everybody at ease. However, that takes more of a detailed pre-call plan because you got to find out about all the people that are in the room, clear understanding of all those people's roles and what they do, and really take a look at what their titles are, what they do, and find out what would be the win for them in this particular thing. Often people there are motivated by different wins, so establish what the win is for them. So in a team selling approach, you still have to do the same three things. Let me reiterate. Number one, establish rapport. Number two, establish how much time do we have. And number three, establish the buying process and who is part of the buying center. The key thing though is it's going to be more detailed and it's going to take a lot more time because you'll have multiple people in the room. So again, planning the approach, you got to review your strategy. You got to review your product strategy. You've got to review your customer strategy and your presentation strategy. All of those are done in the strategic selling part of it. And then you plan your approach worksheet to break the ice and find out those three pieces of information and then determine a good way to transition to the needs approach. So again, here's a 6-step process, the approach, which is what this chapter is all about. And then we're going to get into needs discovery, presentation, negotiation, close, and servicing the sale. As you can see, all of those boxes on the right are things that you should review during each set of these particular 6-step presentation modules. So again, I'm going to stop this portion of the video. And as I stop this portion of the video, I want to review. The approach has really 3 key objectives. Build rapport and capture their attention. Understand how much time. Understand who's part of the buying process. And then finally, transition to the next stage of the buying sales process. All right, that concludes part 1 of chapter 10, which is the approach. I'll be back with part 2 in just a minute.